Hello, Flandy friends. Today is going to be part 2 of our Menagerie story. If you remember, last time we left our little chaos gremlins, they'd just been thrown in a jail cell by the king for reasons unknown. Bellamy and Cassie are in a jail cell together and trying their best to figure out what to do. But before they can do much, they see a ghost, which honestly doesn't bode well for their current predicament. Still, it turns out that the ghost in question was actually someone who spoke out against the king and was being held prisoner there. He had tried digging a tunnel to escape, and the tunnel had collapsed on him. We find a locket by his corpse, and he asks us if we would please return it to his wife, as it's sentimental and something that he really wanted her to have. With nothing better else to do, we add it to our existing quest log and tell him sure, we'll do that just as soon as we manage to get ourselves out of this predicament as well. With a new quest accepted, we work on finding a way out of the dungeon. Seeing that food will soon be brought to us, Cassie and Bellamy devise a plan. The cell doors open ever so slightly, just long enough for a little halfling cook to push our food through, and that is when our enormous pink werewolf strikes. She grabs the cook and pulls him into the cell, freaking out the guards who slam the door shut. Bellamy demands to be freed or else she will rip the cook to shreds, and the guards promptly run away. In hindsight, probably should have just tried to burst through the door when it was open. But oh well, at least now we have a hostage. Cassie orders the cook to tell her his name and start talking. The cook is a crying, sobby mess at this point, but he does manage to speak. He goes, "My name is Roy. I'm just a cook. Please don't hurt me." Cassie smiles and clears her throat as she starts slowly shifting into a duplicate of Roy right before his eyes. "That will do. Let me see if I can give this a try."
My name is Roy. I'm a cook. Yeah, I can work with that. Now, Roy, I'm going to need you to strip for me, alright?
One naked halfling later, and Cassie is ready for her performance. We shove Roy into the hole with the dead corpse, and when the guards finally come back, the fake Roy manages to stab Bellamy, and the guards release him out of the cell. With Cassie free and now posing as Roy, she gets taken to the nearest room, a room where our weapons are being stored, and more importantly, her spellbook. Before she can do anything, though, there is a loud explosion. See, while Bellamy and Cassie were in a room together, so were V and Trell, and Trell is still absolutely terrified of V. Just terrified. So when she sees the massive dragonborn chowing down on his meal, muzzle full of fangs, it scares her enough to activate a wild magic surge. And this particular one caused an explosion, one strong enough to blow apart the cell door and free the two of them. The guards immediately grab their weapons and rush down to the hallway, thankfully leaving Cassie alone with the weapons and her spellbook. Normally, 6 guards against 1 dragonborn, that could possibly be a fair fight, especially since the dragonborn was unarmed. Unfortunately, they run into a very angry, raging barbarian dragonborn, who, as soon as the fight starts, gets his axe dropped before him as Cassie teleports in with all their gear and immediately runs to go free the other prisoners. This next segment would have been an appropriate point to play some good Doom music. Unfortunately, I don't really want to get a claim strike against me, so you'll just have to imagine the music as a dragonborn just wrecks the guards. The hallway ends up bathed in their blood, and we end up freed and trying to make our way through the castle and escape. Before we can get too far, though, we run into a dwarf, and surprisingly enough, this person the dragonborn doesn't want to kill. Turns out V actually knows this dwarf. The dwarf in question is Grimger Hammerfist. He works for the king and was actually responsible for getting V the assignment to take out and find the necromancer vampire. Well, Grimger wants to make it up to us for getting us into all this trouble to begin with, so he says he would lead us out stealthily through the castle. That was the plan. Unfortunately, we had a dragonborn coated in blood, and Bellamy had decided to take Roy with us. Because after taking on his form, she assumed that Cassie probably had ruined his image there at the castle, and he might be seen as a traitor. We didn't put his clothes back on there, so she's just carrying him butt naked through the castle as we do our best to try to escape. A few twists and turns, and an excited guard later, we end up getting split up from Grimshaw for a moment, just long enough to find ourselves in a banquet hall, where, of course, there's a feast going on, and there's a lot of lords and ladies, and just fancy people. Those of us who are stealthy or who had magic managed to get through no problem. Once again, blood-soaked dragonborn, pink tiefling carrying a naked halfling, they stood no chance of getting through there. One pompous jerk pokes a leg of lamb at the dragonborn, tells V that you shouldn't be here, and then promptly gets the leg of lamb ripped from his hand and then bashed upside the head with it. Through a truly awe-inspiring amount of nat 20s, V manages to cleave his way through 4 more guards with the leg of lamb. Both awe-inspiring and terrifying, and absolutely did not help his standing in Trell's eyes, as she realizes that anything is a weapon in his hands. Well, after that little foray, we forego stealth and we just try booking it out of there as fast as we can. Once more, a few more twists and turns, a few arrows shot at us, but we do manage to finally get away and get a moment of peace where we find ourselves in front of 2 doors. Now, it's a bit of a spoiler, but one thing you'll learn about our group is we very rarely make the right decision, and this is probably just one of the first long list of decisions that were made poorly for us. See, the door we chose ended up leading us down a pathway that eventually ended up into the guard barracks, where we find ourselves surrounded by, as you can imagine, a lot of guards. Thankfully, before this, however, Cassie had realized we were in a bit of a predicament, so she had actually taken on a new form and hid it beneath her cloak and mask. Soon as she realizes that we're screwed, she throws off the cloak and mask to reveal she has taken on the form of the king himself. See, as long as she has heard someone speak and seen them before, she can take on their form pretty flawlessly. Rokas adds to this, casting a quick illusion to make it look like she is wearing full regal clothes complete with crown. So, thankfully, thanks to a good deception roll, the guards buy it. They believe she is in fact the king and that she is pissed. She orders them all, regardless of what state they're in, whether they're dressed, have clothes, have armor, that they must go and find these missing prisoners as quickly as possible. She tells them to go to the other side of the castle where there have been rumors that they were escaping, and the guards do it. They all run out quickly, all too terrified to upset their king. And while they're racing to the other side of the castle, we proceed to promptly, well, first we proceed to rob them blind, and then we proceed to race out to the exit as fast as we can. It is there at the exit that we manage to meet it back up with Grimshaw through all this. Grimshaw gets us a cart, and we take off as quickly as we can away from the castle and to the city proper, where it'll be harder for them to find us. Once there in the city proper, one of the first things we do is go by a tavern called the Wandering Eye. It is there where Bellamy drops off a very, very confused Roy. She explains that he works here now, whether he wants to or not, because he's now likely a traitor to the crown. And this is sort of his life now, so, good luck with that. We also do manage to go by the grieving widow and drop off her husband's locket, explaining to her that, he died, and that sucks, but he loved her. So, also, that locket's probably worth some money, so if need be, she can probably sell it. Did I mention we're not the best people at all? Anyway, with another quest checked off, we take the cart and start off on our next adventure. You see, Grimshaw's taking us to a mining town called Crestview, one where his brother, Remy Hammerfist, works at. Which, speaking of brothers, as we're leaving Roth, we get another bit of information. The vampire necromancer pops into our head, asking us how he liked our audience with his brother the king. Which explains why we were thrown in prison in the first place. Vampire necromancer, king, the two clearly took very different paths in life, and we got caught in the middle of a sibling power squabble. Joy. Either way, we managed to escape Roth for the first time. Spoilers, not going to be the first time we run away from Roth for one reason or the other, but those are going to be tales for another day. Next time, we'll talk about Crestview, meet Remy in all his blacksmithing glory, and meet Usador, a talking sock puppet who is oddly more important than you would think. At any route, I hope you enjoyed today's story, and if you did, please feel free to like, subscribe. It really helps me out and also gets you more content that you hopefully enjoy by now. At any rate, it's been fun, and I'm going to catch you next time, Flandy friends. Bye!